I wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Daniel Stewart. I have a doctorate in physical therapy, and I live and practice out here in Salt Lake City, Utah. We wanted to mention and talk about the upcoming webinar series that we're going to do. So this is our first webinar of many. This is called an Introduction to ActivForce. And we're planning on doing a webinar on a monthly basis for the next couple months to see if it's something that's useful or helpful to the ActivForce community. So today, the topic will be an introduction to the ActivForce. Next month, we'll be doing a webinar that's specific to educators and people at universities, which we're announcing a partnership with a company that is involved in universities. And then after that, starting in April, we'll have a webinar that goes over body parts, certain body parts that we use in testing for range of motion and strength. So that first one probably will be me. But the topic of that first meeting in April will be coming out here soon as we get prepared for it. So hopefully you find these webinars helpful. We appreciate you coming in your time. Let's see. So for the goals for this webinar, I wanted to take some time to introduce myself. Introduce what the ActivForce is and what our mission is for really the rehab space when it comes to physical therapy, occupational therapy, orthopedics, athletic training, and what we're really trying to do in improving patient care across all of those spaces in healthcare. Before I get started, I wanted to talk about two of our product lines, just so that everybody's clear. So we do have our product called the ActivForce, which is a FDA-approved device that is used in a clinical setting. So a lot of it's used in place of manual muscle testing in the form of handheld dynamometry, and gives you an actual readout on the amount of force a person can produce. We have another product called Active Elite, which we're launching here pretty soon, that's targeted towards athletic performance. And so in that case, we have partnered with companies like the Steelers or sports teams like the Steelers. And a lot of what that product's able to do is connect to weight equipment, barbells, anything, a lot of gym equipment in order to test our 1 rep max. So again, ActivForce, FDA approved medical device used in physical therapy settings or medical settings. Active Elite is a device that does similar stuff, but is more used in athletic training space or personal training space. So I just wanted to iterate those two, or talk about and distinguish those two different products. So today, what we're going to do, our goals again, my goal is that after today, you'll understand what the ActivForce is. We'll do a rundown of what's in our packaging and how to attach the attachments and what the attachments are used for. And we'll go over the app and the dashboard and how to use the dashboard in practice. And then finally, we'll go over Q&A at the end. So I'll start with just an introduction myself. So again, my name is Daniel Stewart. I have a doctorate of physical therapy. I practice here in Salt Lake City. And the story behind how I got involved and why I'm involved with the ActivForce and why I use it every day is that when I got out of school, I realized how subjective manual muscle testing is. I realized that not only is it a subjective measurement that changes from person to person, that it also didn't really mean anything to my patients, right? So you come out, you have a patient who you're testing the force, you maybe do a manual muscle test, and you tell them, oh, you're a 4 out of 5, right? And my issue with that is I had a lot of patients that liked their goals for range of motion and pain, but we didn't necessarily have a goal for their strength. And 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 didn't mean anything to them. And so I went out and I searched for a product that was affordable for the physical therapy market, and I found Active Body, which would produce the ActivForce One. The ActivForce One is a great device, but what I learned as I was using it is there were ideas that I had that could improve the device and make it better. And so I reached out, and over the last couple of years, we've been designing and and getting our FDA approval and producing the ActivForce 2 that you either know of or have a device at your clinic currently. One of the big things that meant a lot to me is that when I learned about why handheld dynamometry isn't the most common or just the standard practice in our spaces, I learned that a lot of it has to do with barrier to entry when it comes to costs and ease to use, right? And so one of the things that was very important to ActivForce and myself is producing a device that had the same quality or same ability to measure force as some of our competitors, which you'll see, costs in the 1,500 to 2,000 range. But we wanted to do it at a price that every single PT in the country could afford, so that hopefully our vision is that one day the ActivForce device and handheld dynamometry will be the muscle test of choice or the standard among all physios and physical therapists and athletic trainers and occupational therapists across the world, right? And so we've done that. Our device can be found on our website at activforce.com. If you'd like to go there, makes it affordable, available to use, and hopefully our mission is to make it the muscle test of choice. Now, one of our key marketing features, or what we're really trying to do, is get into universities at the student level, because we understand that there's a lot of therapists out there that are very advanced and willing to pick this up and apply it into their practice. But a lot of times, if we don't educate the force at when they're getting educated, that it's very difficult to change profession in the way that they practice. And so if you are part of a university, or if you are a student or someone who's affiliated to university, please reach out to us. We'd love to get you involved in our athletic or our academic program in order to get these into the schools and hopefully into the hands of your students. So that's kind of the background about me, ActivForce, and which was produced and created by a company called ActiveBody. And now we're going to go into the device and what you're going to get in the box. So here we have the ActivForce box. So if you have a device, or if you're thinking about purchasing a device, the device will come in this box, okay? And the first thing that you're going to see when you open this box is a little leaflet. And what this will show you is it has some information here on the back or on the front, along with a step-by-step guide of how to get started. Here, you're going to find two QR codes. You go to these QR codes. One is for the Apple Store, one is for the Google Play Store. And you're going to look for this icon. It's kind of a dark blue icon, and it's the ActivForce 2 app, okay? Or the ActivForce app. On the back, you're going to see a list of all the accessories that should be included in your device, and also in brief instructions or diagrams on how to attach the attachments. So this is what you're going to see. It'll come in a couple different languages, and so you should be able to find one that matches your language and what you're looking for. So that's the first thing you see. Before I get into each and every attachment and what they are used for, I want to quickly highlight all of them first, and then we'll go back and focus on each and every one and what it's used for. So this is the ActivForce device. This is what's actually and contains the handheld dynamometry, or the force gauge that allows you to test muscle strength. And then it also includes an inclinometer that allows you to test range of motion. So that's the ActivForce device. This is our round pad. Or sorry, this is our arch pad. I apologize. So this is the arch pad. This is the rounded pad. So one is has no padding. The other one is padded. You'll see in your kit a hand strap that's used to attach the device to your hand or to the patient's wrist or elbow or wherever the hand strap fits. For body parts that are too big for our hand strap, we've included what we call our leg strap, or a longer strap, where you can feed it through this belt loop and then attach it to the head or the arm or the leg in areas where the hand strap isn't big enough to wrap around. And then finally, we have our belts, which is like a general mobility belt, along with a belt loop plate to allow for the ActivForce device to attach to our belt loop plate attachment. So those are kind of the overview of the individual attachments. Now we'll go into the actual device and its features. So as you can see, the ActivForce device is designed to be compact and easy to travel or use. So as you can see, it fits in the palm of my hand. It was designed that way so that while I'm testing somebody, it's not something bulky or something cylindrical that I have to grasp that makes it difficult for me to resist force. On the top here, you'll find a button. There's a single button here with a little LED. As you hold it, it'll flash blue to start. And what that means is the device is on and ready to connect to your app. Once it's connected, that blue will turn green to show that it's connected to your app. When you're ready to turn it off, there's two ways. You can either not use it and it will time out after a certain period of time, or if you want to turn it off immediately, you hold the device for another couple seconds and it will turn red. And that's how you turn on and pair your ActivForce device. Okay. Now, another feature is you'll notice this plate. Underneath this plate here, you'll see that there's a spot for you to slip a screwdriver under to pop this out. So inside, underneath the plate, you'll be able to see the force sensors, but that's where the battery is housed. So one of the things that I enjoy most about this product is that there's no expensive batteries that have to be replaced or that die over time. I don't have to plug it in. If I walk into the clinic and the battery's dead, it takes me a few minutes to pop it off, replace our AAA battery with a new one, pop the plate back on, and the device is now ready to use at any time. So that's how you replace the battery, is popping off this plate and replacing our AAA battery. Now, another key feature that you'll see here that's different from our ActivForce One device is we've actually implemented attachments that lock directly into the device. So as you saw before, we have our rounded pad attachment. Now, this locking mechanism pairs well with the one on the back of your attachment. And how you're going to place this on, you're going to turn it to a 45-degree angle. You're going to place it to the right, and then you'll twist it upwards, and that locks it into place. Now, this rounded pad, as I mentioned before, doesn't have any kind of padding or soft padding on top of it. And the reason for that is because this is used for body parts or placement on the body that doesn't have a bony landmark close to the surface, right? So if I try to put this on someone's shin and they experience pain, we know based on studies that if there's pain during your manual muscle test, that the body will actively suppress that muscle's ability to produce its max force. And so what you're going to do is you're going to use this for non-bony landmarks, like above the elbow, right here, on the side of the knee, above the knee, on the back if you were measuring hip extension, right at the back of the hamstring, or if you wanted to test against an inanimate objects like a wall or against a plinth, right? So this is a flat surface, you put it against the wall, you have the patient push into it, and that will give you an accurate measurement with this pad. I guess the last one that I use it for is sometimes I'll use it for a modified grip strength measurement. So I'll test on this side and then on this side to be able to compare the two sides. Okay, so that's the rounded pad. Now I'll go into our arch pad, which is our cushioned pad. And this one, as you can see, also has the same locking mechanism, but then it also has this silicone cover that comes off. So there's a replaceable pad that you can ask for if it were to wear down, that attaches directly to your device. And then on top of that, you have this silicone pad that you can remove for washing and disinfecting. So usually what I do is I'll take this off and I'll wash it in some soap and some water, and then I'll disinfect it with my favorite disinfectant that I use in the clinic. This goes back on this way. Another feature that you'll notice is not only is its pad, but it's concave in nature. The reason for the concave shape of our pad is so that when you're putting it against a bony landmark like the shin or your radius or ulna, you're going to put the bone or the long end of the bone through the concave part so that as you're testing, it doesn't roll off the end, right? It keeps it secure within the pad. And so that allows you to get an accurate measurement without the risk of slipping off. Okay. So this same way, 45 degrees, and then twist to the right in order to lock into place. Now, one of the cool things about this locking mechanism is, let's say I'm holding the device and I'm trying to test like this. As you can see, the actual concave part doesn't sit right, and I have to move my hand into an awkward position in order to get a good spot in order to place the device. So what you can see is this locking mechanism actually allows you a number of different locations to attach to the device, or the attachment to the device, so that when I'm testing, I can get it right in the right spot so that I'm as safe and as comfortable as possible. Okay. So next I'll do the hand strap, right? So when you want to attach the hand strap, you feed it through here. When you attach the hand strap, you'll see that the bottom of or on top of the device, you'll have one side of the strap. Your hand will go right into the middle of those, and it will fit snugly on your hand, in which you can just pop the attachment like this, and you're good to go. So this is for any use of the hand. When it comes to muscles that are too strong for your force or for your ability to maintain the device still, we have the belt loop, in which same concept. You pull down to this side, you place the device in between the strap and the plastic part, you pull these tight, and then again you place the attachment and twist it. So now what you're able to do with this is you can attach it to a plinth or a post, right, in order to remove you from the equation and allow the person to push against the device and get a more accurate measurement for muscles that are too strong for you to keep the device still. So that's what's included inside the box and each of the attachments. The next thing I want to talk about briefly is how to move through our app. So as I told you before, the way that you get the app is you can scan the QR codes to get there. And then what I wanted to pull up is just a quick visual of how to move through our app to actually test the muscles. So when you open the app, you're going to see that there's a range of motion and a strength portion of the device. So in this example, we're going to push strength, and then it will tell you, do you want to test the right side first, the left side first, or if there's no left or right side, you can hit NA. And the places that you would have that, right, is if there was a spine movement, right? So flexion, extension, there's no real left and right. So you would use the NA there. And then from here, you have three choices on how to proceed to the test. If you just wanted to skip to the test real quick, you would go to skip, and that would bring you right to our testing screen. If you wanted to name the test something unique because you were doing something that isn't a traditional manual test, but you were objectifying a functional movement, you could do it there. Or finally, if you're using a general joint direction and positioning of the patient, you can use our chips here to click through them really quickly. So for example, I could hit ankle flexion and seating, and that would save those settings so that when I go back and look at it, I can know what direction I did, what joint I did, and how the patient was positioned. So after you go through here, it'll take you to our strength measurement page. Once you hit start, the device will start to calibrate. Now, what's important is during this calibration phase is that there's no pressure being applied to the force plate, or else it's going to zero at where there is current pressure that the patient is producing. And that will lower their peak force, obviously, because it will tear. It'll tear at a force that they're putting on there before the test starts. So once it starts, you can then have the patient push. You'll have them push as hard as they can for a period of time. I roughly use 6 seconds, but you can do a longer or shorter time depending on what you're looking for. And then after you're done, you'll have the ability to look at the summary and then send the results to our dashboard. Okay. Now, before I show you the dashboard, I'll jump over here into how to move through the range of motion section. Again, you'll start here with the option of range of motion and strength. You'll hit range of motion. You'll be able to choose between active, passive, or both if you wanted to test both. Again, this is really just important to have documentation of how you're testing. So in this case, we'll choose active range of motion. We'll choose the side that we want to test. And then we get to the naming phase. And in this point, we can do the same thing where we can skip, we can name the test, or we can use the chips. And then at this point, again, it's really important during the calibration phase that while it's calibrating that the arm or the leg or the person that you're testing is holding very still, so that as you move throughout the range of motion, it's calibrated correctly. And then once it's good to go, you can go ahead and move throughout the range. Once you hit the top of the range, that's when you hit stop, and then it will take you to the summary screen, and then you can go to obviously our dashboard. So to show you real quickly our dashboard, you pull it up here on, there's a link through the app where you can pull up the dashboard. It will have listed every test that you did along with the timestamp and allow you to look at a full report and a client report. So the full report for me is something that I download and I put into my EMR that I send to a referral source if a doctor wants to see results. And what it will show is it will show the force over time graph along with the right and left and the percentage difference. So when I want to come back and look at the data from before, I can come in and see a number of different things in this full report. Okay, now if I want to print out a report and send it to a client, what I can do is I can hit a client report, and then what we've designed is some pretty cool photos that pair with their left and right differences so that you can send this home with a patient so that they know exactly what exercises they need to be doing, why they're doing them, and then also if you give them instructions on how to do those exercises, I found that they're more compliant and more excited to do their exercises because they want to see progress in the next test. And what this has done for my practice is not only has it increased the word of mouth of what we're doing and increased the number of new patients coming in, but on the business side, as I was struggling to find ways to objectify strength training with my patients, is that a lot of them stayed throughout their plan of care, which resulted in more visits on my schedule and obviously more revenue that comes along with a busier schedule. So the device pretty much paid for itself after a couple patients, and now I try to use it as often as possible. So that's kind of a brief rundown of the ActivForce device, the history of our company and what we're trying to do in the space, what comes in your box, how to use our app and dashboard. And I hope that it was good information for you as you try to now, with your next patient, use the device to objectify their measurements. All right, so now what we're gonna do, we have about 10 minutes left or so, maybe a little bit less, but I wanted to go through some of the question and answers. So let me go ahead, I have a list of them here. Thank you for everyone who submitted their questions ahead of time and those who asked now. One current one we have is that we know the webinar is recorded. How long does the battery last before it dies, and what happens when the battery dies, right? So again, the battery lasts roughly, because it has a system where it turns off after a period of disuse. I found that some of my batteries last up to a year, right? And so what I would do is I'd just set a reminder that after 6 months or a year, you go through and pull out the battery. When the battery is dead, it will no longer connect to your phone, right? And so that's how you know that there is no battery, or that there's no charge left in your batteries. An important question that I wanted to touch on is, does our pressure force change the readings while measuring strength? And the answer to that question is a little bit more complicated, right? So, reminder that when you're testing with this device, usually you want to perform a make test and not a break test. When you're performing a break test, that's where you're pushing into the patient's arm or the position that you're testing. And thus, your strength definitely plays an impact on the force readings. Now, when you're trying to use the device, you want to use a make test, right? So where the patient is pushing into the device, and your job is to keep the device as still as possible, right? If the device moves during the test, then we know that it's giving an inaccurate measurement. So generally, the general rule that I make is if I'm testing on a person or a muscle that I know is probably going to produce more than 40 pounds of force, I use my belt loop plate to strap the patient down for, let's say, hip abduction or knee extension, so that I'm not involved in the measurement. If it's a measurement that I know that I can keep the device still on, like let's say shoulder abduction, I know that at the wrist I have enough leverage to keep the device still, and therefore I don't add any force into the actual what's measurement that's being tested. Okay. A question that just came in is, how can you save patient data so reports can be sent onwards to clinic software system or email? So the current way that we do it, again, to try to match all HIPAA regulations, is that you have two ways to get into the clinic software, or I guess three ways. One is that while you're testing the patient, you take the numbers that are being displayed and you can just type them into the boxes within your EMR. What I do is that I go onto our dashboard and then I download the PDF of all of the tests that I did for that patient. I write down the timestamp of when I tested that patient so I can correlate it within our dashboard. I download the PDF and I upload it into the patient's chart. The third way I'll sometimes do it is there's some new dictation softwares out there that use AI, where I will test a patient and say the tests out loud. It will then compile it for me and put it into a software that I can then transfer over into my EMR pretty seamlessly. And so that's how I save the patient data. Okay, let's do another question. So the next question is, can I explain the validity and reliability of the device? So with the device, you have to remember that the actual technology behind it is a force plate. So force plates are the same technology you'd see in a scale or in a luggage weight, right? Any time you're measuring force that involves a compression, it's the same technology. So the real validity and reliability of a device depends on the tester. If I'm able to keep this device still, the reliability and validity are great. If the device moves while I'm testing, then the validity and reliability goes down. Okay. Now, again, the way that you can improve that is by using our strap or using the device against a wall. Okay, the next one is, which tests are most important or helpful ways to use the ActivForce? So one of the most important tests that I find is the knee extension test, right? I think it's almost universal. It's almost impossible to really measure knee extension strength unless you're using a device that can strap it down to a patient. And because knees are such a big part of what we do, it's very, very telling when somebody has a deficit from side to side. So I would probably say, if you're going to try one test, start with the knee extension test. Now, as you get better and better in testing, what you're going to find is you can actually use the ActivForce device to test different functional movements, right? So really anything can be created or can be made objective. And an example of that in my practice is I had a patient who came to see me who was trying to build up their draw force strength to be able to pull a 40-pound bow and arrow for hunting season, right? And so when they came, what I was able to do is, using our belt loop plate and the device, is I was able to make a setup where I wrapped the device and this force pad attachment against a post that was made it so that the device didn't move. And then what I had them do is we set the length of the strap to be right about chin level to where you would pull the device. And then I had them practice pulling the device as hard as they could. Now, what this allowed me to do is, although this is a very non-traditional movement that incorporates a lot of different muscles, it's a functional movement because it allows me to quantify how much force they could pull, right? Now, initially, I think they were able to pull 20 to 25 pounds. As we prescribed exercises and went through that plan of care, we were able to get them to that 40-pound mark and discharge them in a way that they felt comfortable going back to their activity. And so I wanted to challenge you is that after you get comfortable with the basics, start to look for ways to objectify the functional movements to what the patient's goals are. And that's really where it kind of takes everything to the next level. Okay, another question. How do you save patient data? Oh, we went over that. How do you add the name of the person when you're taking the readings? So again, currently, the way that our device is set up and our software is set up is in order to be HIPAA compliant. There's no way for you to put a patient's information or any patient health information. And the reason for that is, again, to apply with regulations. In our next version, and we're coming out with a new version of the application sometime either later this year or early next year, there will be full new functionality that allows you to put in the patient's information and track their progress over time. One of the great things about that is because we're still in a phase where we're in development, if you have any suggestions or feedback on ways that we can make the product better, please reach out so that you can let us know what you would like to see, and then we can add that into our development timeframe going forward. And then, okay, so that was a large part of the ones we had time for. We did just have one more come up. Is this approach saving therapists time, right? So as we know, therapists, time is money oftentimes. And so we're doing everything we can to try to save as much time for the therapist as possible. But as you know, right, sometimes in order to improve care, or really provide the best level care, there may be things that you have to do in order to give the patient an idea of where they're progressing. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll even just test this at re-evals, right? And so it's already part of my flow. In our next version, we're creating a system that reduces the clicks. We're creating systems that allow you to template certain tests that you're going to do, so that hopefully in the next version, it's as streamlined as possible and you still get the benefits of providing better care while at the same time saving you as much time as possible. And finally, do you work with insurance companies? We currently don't have the relationship with insurance companies, but if you live in a country like Australia, and I believe Korea and some other countries globally, is that there are regulations coming down that actually insurances are requiring measurements like these in order to get reimbursement. So there may be a day where we have to deal with that, which we never like it when insurance dictate what we care and how we treat our patients. But there is most likely going to be a day where these objective measurements are going to be important for increasing your reimbursement rates and stuff like that. So that's all the time we had for today. If we didn't get to your question, please reach out to our support. Our support is able to answer your questions and get back to you. I might even be the one to answer those questions. And we hope that you enjoyed what we went over today, and we hope that you'll join us for our future webinars. Please look for our next invitation, which should be coming out in the next few weeks, in which we will talk about what we're going to talk about, and then perhaps introduce a guest who's going to be on the webinar with me. Anyway, thank you for your guys' time, and we'll see you next time.